Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Brokerpreneur podcast. I'm Dr. Ben Spears, the ambassador of Flow. I listen to I listen to all the podcasts that we do because I edit them.
Right.
I said I was the CSO, the chief smooth operator. I kind of like that one too.
So here you're going to bring it back up.
Yeah, as many acronyms as possible.
Next thing you know.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the Chief Smooth Operator podcast.
Yeah, I'll be moonwalking down the hallways. But guys, you know who I'm here with. I'm here with the big guy, as always, Matt Vi. How you doing, Matt?
Doing absolutely fantastic. Doing fantastic.
Yeah, I'm so happy to hear that.
Yep.
Right? Because if you're doing fantastic, guess what, man?
We're all doing fantastic.
We're all doing fantastic.
I completely agree.
Matt.
Yeah, Benny.
We just did a podcast. We were talking, are you ready for 2022? Mm-hmm. That was our last one. We were talking, a little bit about, excuses, some of the people,
how to act.
Yeah, how to act and that kind of thing. And, we after that one, we were kind of like, you know what, like, there's still some other things these people need to hear, or not need to hear, want to hear.
Right.
And we're talking a little bit about, some other things that they can take a look at before 2022 comes. But we're actually looking a little bit backwards this time, right?
Yeah, we are, absolutely. And the other thing that we're doing is we're trying to bring things up. We know that people are planning. Mm-hmm. And we know that, a lot of people know how to plan. They know how to, budget and all that kind of stuff. They're doing all those things that they need to. We're trying to tackle some things that are kind of like the outliers, the things that are on the outside of things that sometimes stop people from getting stuff done.
Yep.
So, we're going to talk about competitive reviews, and we're just going to go over a couple of quick ideas. If you're taking a look at your competition to see how they're competing against you and how they're winning and all that kind of stuff, we're going to go over a few tips really quick, 5 tips that'll help you take a close look at them without having to spend $9,000 and 5,800 hours actually figuring it out. So
that's a lot of money and hours.
It is.
Okay, so you're way better off to listen to this 20-minute podcast. Guys, wherever you listen to this, hit that follow and that subscribe button. There's absolutely no better time than right now while you're listening to just go and check out, brokerpreneurpodcast.com. Send you there. There's nothing for sale there, but there's some really cool information. I know that the 3 ways to scale your recruiting is up there right now.
Yep.
I also know that our sign up for our weekly newsletter is there as well. Mm-hmm. We put our heart and souls into that, just making sure that you guys have as much content that you can consume while you're not listening to the podcast, and things that you can actually share with agents in your market and your current agents to have meaningful, value-based conversations, that don't start with a cup of coffee. Right. So, Matt.
Yep.
A competitive review, right? It's important to know, not from necessarily a comparing yourself and judging yourself, which we're going to get to that, later on. But it's important to know what the competition's doing, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. So you have to pay attention to their hires. Okay. Mm-hmm. So don't just look at the people that do business just like you do, right?
Right.
So don't look at what you would consider a lateral move. We've talked about that in some of our early podcasts. We discussed that quite a bit. Understand who the lateral move people are.
Yeah.
And then understand who the move up and move down and all that kind of stuff are.
Correct.
in your market, right? Based on support and compensation, all that kind of stuff. You need to have an idea of all that. Okay, so absolutely, when you're doing your competitive review, be honest with yourself about where you stand and all of that. It's not just about looking at market share and how many agents you've hired and how many agents they've hired. Mm-hmm. It's the wrong way of looking at it. Not just production and stuff like that, right? So you got to look at a few different pieces of it. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. What are those pieces?
Yeah. So absolutely, you got to look at production. Absolutely, you got to look at the total number of hires they have. But you got to look at things like net hires and who's doing business in that production.
Yep.
Okay. So a great example. Let's say that they're just stomping your ass and market share and all that kind of stuff and everything, but they've got 3 teams that are doing 50% of their business.
Yeah.
Okay. That's that. And it's a lot, right?
Yeah.
That's an issue. Okay, so you can't say, oh my gosh, I need to get more market share, or I need to go hire those 3 teams, because if you hired their 3 teams, yes, that's a huge market share shift, but those 3 teams just left another office. So literally, you're putting yourself in the same exact position.
Yeah.
So you have to understand that number and that balance, right?
Gotcha. I'm gonna raise my hand here for a second, right? Because we all know, like, you're a genius. Right. You're real. You are, man. You're a real estate genius, and I have zero reservations in saying that. We talk with a lot of brokers, owners, managers, and we're like, "What's your net hires?" Mm-hmm. They're like, "I don't know. What's that?"
What do you mean?
Yeah. What do you mean? We have a podcast, guys, on net hires, right, where we kind of talk about. But while people are listening, and this is, we got 5 things that we're going to go over here, and this is the first one. Why don't you give us either the formula, mm-hmm. or just the simple little version of what a net hire is, so that they can say, okay, when I'm doing this competitive review, gosh, Matt said I need to look at net hires. Mm-hmm. Okay, well now I got to go Google that. Right, let's take out some of those steps for them.
Yeah, so it's super simple. Yep. Just take how many hires you actually had, compared to how many hires left during a certain time period. Okay, yep. So if you hired 20, and 15 of them left, you have net hires. Okay, so here's the issue.
5 net hires.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Yeah.
Well, no, you just said you have net hires.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. I got you.
I didn't say you're a mathematical genius.
I'm not a mathematician. I was already moving on to the next thing.
Yeah, I know you were, man. So I'm sorry. I really didn't mean to throw that that monkey wrench in there. But I just got to thinking. I was like, there's got to be. If we got 100 listeners, there's probably one of them. Right now listening, there's probably one of them that are like,
15.
What's a net hire?
Yep. Right. Yeah, so the reason why that's important, here's the mistake that most people make, and this is why I moved on instead of actually saying the number, right? So what they'll say is okay, I have a certain number of agents, and I hired a certain number of agents and lost a certain number of agents, so that big number is my net hires. Mm-hmm. No, that's your net agents. Yes. Right. Okay. So there's a big difference between the two, because you got to take longevity and the average life cycle of agent and all that kind of stuff. You got to take all those things into account. Right.
Yep.
I take that back. You don't have to, but sometimes you might want to.
Correct.
Okay. So there's a difference between those. So what we're talking about is that time period. Okay. If it's a 12-month time period, all the hires during that 12-month time period, and all of the losses during that 12-month time period. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep.
So you have to pay attention to those numbers. So you need to know how many and your net hires and all that kind of stuff, absolutely, of yourself and of them. Okay?
Would another way of doing that being hey, January 1 I had this many agents, December 31 I've got this many, and just subtracting that number from the other?
No.
That's what I was just curious.
Yeah, no, that's not net hires. That's net agent population, right?
Right.
Yeah. So,
but that's you're taking all of your hires minus all your losses.
Yeah. Okay. So great point.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to.
But it's wrong.
I agree.
Okay.
I'm throwing this out there because
right.
I'm speaking for the people, Matt.
Yep. So number of people during that time period mm-hmm. hired, and number of people of the hires during that time period lost.
Yeah. Okay. Not just anybody that left.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
Not just anybody that
That's
left.
Where everybody always gets confused.
It is.
Why I did that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And that's a super good point. And the reason why that's confusing, and the reason why that's an issue, is because they don't look at how effective their hiring was that year when you do that.
Yeah.
It only looks, did I hire enough people and add them to my population?
Correct.
Okay. Absolutely, that number is important. That's what I said. You have to make sure that you're looking at that number, and there's a time and place for it. But if you instituted a new recruiting program this year, mm-hmm. okay, and you say, okay, I've hired this many, but Betty Sue, who's been with me for 5 years, and Jane, who's been with me for 4 years, and so that's been with me for 16 years, and so, right, and I lost all of those people. Well, crap, that recruiting program didn't work.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, that's not okay.
Yeah, that's the life cycle of the agent.
That's right. It's a whole different. It's a very important conversation, but a whole different one.
Yep, absolutely, completely agree. So now we've kind of we've looked at metrics, we've looked at all the things that I like, the things that can be trackable and put on a spreadsheet. Now it's kind of like the stuff that, let's say, maybe my mom would like. She'd be like, let me just go around asking around.
Yep.
And see, did you hear about so-and-so?
Yep.
Did you say something? Yeah, my mom's not like that, but it's funny to say.
Right.
Asking around,
yep.
And figuring out how your competition is doing that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So so on a regular basis, so I'm gonna talk about this a little bit more in just a second, another piece of this, but as you're going through your year, you have to make sure that you're talking to your agents about what they're hearing from a recruiting standpoint. That's important for retention. That's important for gathering information so that, right? Okay.
Yep.
So do you ask your agents, hey, I know you're probably getting bugged all the time about people wanting you to join their company. What is the thing that is the funniest to you, which is a nice way of saying what sucks the most? And then what's the part that you found compelling?
Yeah.
Right? What's the part that you found, was important?
Right.
I cannot tell you how many times I had agents walk into my office with their phone and want to put it on speakerphone because somebody was calling them recruiting, right? I had one agent walk in and put it on speakerphone in front of me because of something that had happened, and we were dealing with something through professional standards. Okay.
Right.
And that I wanted to hear. And as soon as she did that, I said, hey, so-and-so, just to let you know, this person walked into my office and you're on speakerphone now, right? Which was kind of funny, but a whole different conversation.
Right.
But the rest of the time, I want to hear it, but I'm not going to listen in on a phone call to do it.
Right.
I want the agent to tell me. Okay. Yeah. And I would tell the agent, it's, that phone call between you and them, they think that's a private conversation. It's not fair to act like that's not a private conversation. Right.
Yeah.
But I'd also want to talk to the agent about it because I'd want to hear their take on it.
Yeah.
I could discern more about how dangerous that was to me in my office of that agent leaving if I heard it from the agent than if I heard it from that manager.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
follow
No,
me?
absolutely.
So
they're laughing because they said they'll give me free stuffed animals.
Right. That's right.
Like, I don't want stuffed animals. That's dumb.
Like a skill crane at the front of it. That would be so awesome to have like a skill crane at the front of it that had like beers in it.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, I hear you.
Now you're talking.
I'd probably like throw in some Country Time lemonades.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. There's some Arnold Palmers.
Yeah, some Arnold Palmers.
Yep.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense. I never really thought about that, but yeah, you get way more feedback that way, versus the other.
And talk to them and say it. Say, listen, I know you guys are getting called all the time. Say it in a sales meeting. I know you're getting called all the time. I'd love to hear what some of those conversations are. I want my game to be as good as I can. I want to support you in as great a way as I can. When you hear something that you really think is compelling, come talk to me. I'd love to hear it because now you know who's seriously entertaining those conversations. That's a retention thing, but it's also a competitive review thing.
Yeah. No, absolutely makes sense.
We can't move on though yet. You weren't moving on, were you? I saw that look in your eye like, hey, wait a minute, we got show notes here. We got an ambassador of Flow this. Or were you?
I was going to move on, Matt.
We can't move on yet. We're not done with this one.
Okay, gotcha. I didn't know. It sounded kind of like we were done. I guess, we haven't talked about the salon or the barber shop yet.
Right.
Right, so those are all the other places you go to ask around.
That's exactly right. So if you're in a franchise, you need to be talking to other brokers.
Yeah.
If you're not in a franchise, you still need to be talking to other brokers.
Yeah.
Right. So if I was in a franchise and I owned an office, I would try to meet all the brokers from everywhere else that I could possibly meet them. We've talked about from, sharing market statistics and all that kind of stuff. We've talked about how important it is to be connected, right? People want to know that you're a real resource, and that means that you need to be educated on what you're doing. But so you need to talk to other people within your franchise group. Talk to your business consultants, right? Talk to all of these other people about what's going on. But you also want to keep up with things like, Real Trends puts great information out on a regular basis. They're going to keep you in the loop on things. Go to the board office and sit in and listen to some of the trainings and everything. I don't care if you have 8,000 hours of continuing ed or if you're grandfathered in and you never have to do it again. Go in there and sit down and listen and be part of some of those conversations. You're going to hear things that are going to help you from a competitive review standpoint, that are going to help you from a recruiting standpoint, and are going to help you from a retention standpoint.
Hey guys, this podcast is powered by Prospect Boomerang.
We all know broker owners struggle with profitability. Prospect Boomerang compounds your profits by recruiting the best agents to your brokerage.
For consistent growth, visit prospectboomerang.com. Yeah, or if you listen to like some podcast that has like a kick-ass newsletter, like sign up for that newsletter or
That's
something.
right.
Like, I don't know if one of those exists or anything,
Yeah.
but you just look around, Prospect Boomerang and Brokerpreneur podcast.com. Yeah, it's great. So, Matt, all of this information, right? Asking, are you ready to move on? Can I move on now?
Yes, sir. We can
Can
move
I
on.
finish?
Can I finish? Can I finish? Can I finish?
Can I finish? Can I finish? Can I finish? We're like the only two people who probably get that.
No, somebody else is watches Saturday Night Live.
Yeah. So
That
guys,
was Dana Carvey, wasn't it?
yeah, Dana Carvey, Ross Perot.
Yep.
It's all these metrics, all these things that you're doing. They're kind of like, a lot of people say they're kind of like, baseball cards and Beanie Babies,
Yep.
and because you want to collect them.
Yep.
Yeah, you want to collect them all year long.
Yep.
Kind of like good memories.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
So, so how does someone go about that? Do they just, do they write it on, do they write it on wide ruled loose paper and then shove it into a manila envelope by their desk and say, let that collect dust as the year goes on? And
he's making fun of me right now.
Right, and I'm like, here's some postcards that I got.
He's making fun of me again.
Or some letters.
He's making fun of me
that
again.
I got. Shove all this stuff in there and slam the file door. Or do they do that from a digital standpoint? Is it irrelevant how they do it as long as they do it? Because
Well, yeah. Let's talk about exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right. So do not do a competitive review on December 6th. That's not when you start collecting your data from a competitive review. Right.
Yeah.
We're going to do it the entire year.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to review it at the end of the year. Right.
Correct.
Or whenever you're doing your planning. Right. So as you get these postcards, as you get these letters, as people mail out these boxes full of whatever it is and all that kind of stuff and whatever, right? As you get all of this, you need to be collecting that, and then you need to go back and look. If you want a competitive review to be effective, then in March, when someone started their campaign and they ran it for 6 months, you can go back and look and see how effective they were or were not during that time period, right? And then you can see how many things did I get? Did I get 800 emails during that time period? Was I getting text from somebody? Did somebody invite me to a sales meeting at that point? What was it that you were getting, and what was it that you were because you've been compiling it? You can go back and look and see what you were getting and how effective it was during that time period. Don't just try to go, okay, you know what? I really need to figure out what the competition's doing because it's the end of the year and I'm doing my planning. I need to try to scrape up what they did during.
Let me Google it.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
We just go to everybody's career pages and see what kind of coupons they have.
Yep. Right, coupons.
Join now, 20% off.
Yeah.
But I guess the one thing that I want to ask though, because again, like you make a good point there, is where are they putting this stuff? How are they saving it? How are they storing?
It depends on you.
Yeah, because it's a lot of different stuff, right? It's a lot of like hard copy stuff. It's a lot of just things that you saw online. It's something that you heard another agent say inside of your. You take a voice recording. Could you say that, and then I'll save it to a file.
Right.
So it's like how do you compile that? And I know everybody's different, and some people, myself included, have like a love-hate relationship with computers and that kind of thing, but more love than hate. But that brings into play because again, I don't like it when everybody has to like here's all this stuff. Let me think about it. I want our listeners to be like, okay, well, even though this isn't the way I would do it, here's a way to do it. Right? You know what I mean?
Yep. So Evernote, right? Go to Evernote and use your scanner on your printer, whatever it is that you need to do it. You're going to be able to get most of the information that way, and then put it in a digital file, probably like on a Google Drive. If you're not comfortable with everything else, just dump it to a Google Drive, Dropbox, something like that.
Yep.
Just put all of it in one place, right?
Yep.
Evernote's a great way of doing it because Evernote allows you you can edit and manipulate the things that you're doing and all that kind of stuff. But you shouldn't be trying to learn a completely new program to do your competitive review.
Yeah,
you follow me?
Yep, completely agree.
Oh, but for years, right? I had, you've seen them. I've got manila envelopes full of crap from every year going back until whenever. And so I just tracked it and I just kept up with it. And when I was making my plan, and when I owned my company, I looked at it differently. When I was managing for someone else, I'd go back and look and see at what I thought was working. And there were some things that I was just like, man, that is super cool. And it made zero. There was no dot on the radar for the things that the other people did. And then there were some other things I was like, okay, that's really super cool, and it made a difference.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. The events and challenges that we do, historically always did extremely well.
Yeah.
The only difference is people did them themselves.
Yeah.
Right? So XYZ company held an event for XYZ people. They invited everybody to it. And those are the ones that historically did extremely well from a recruiting standpoint. Every year that they did that, they did well. When they tapered off with that, when I wasn't getting as many emails and all that kind of stuff, their recruiting went down. This is no accident that we do things the way that we do them.
No,
okay?
Absolutely. 100%.
And so I attract it, and I paid close attention to it, and now everybody gets to the benefit of it. So
yep, absolutely. Yeah, we do it for you. You just have to use it to recruit.
Absolutely.
So that brings us to our next point, Matt. 'Cause there's a lot of things that we do online, and your competition, they do a lot of things online as well. Whether they have their own podcast or they have have a presence on social media or not, or they just have like a killer website with a kick-ass careers page.
Yep.
Right. So many different things that they can do online. And this is probably the easiest one, in my opinion, the easiest one to go and see what your competition is doing, because they're not saying like, okay, I'm going to put this post out here. I'm going to make this website, and I'm going to restrict it to only to brokers of my competition can't see it.
Right.
Of course, everybody can see it. And so it's probably the easiest one to go and take a look at and just see what everybody's doing.
Yeah, go to their website, look at their social media presence, all that kind of stuff. 100%. You have to do that. Write down ideas that you like, that you think are effective and are working. Again, do not wait until the end of the year to do this. You should put it on your calendar so that every 4 months or every 3 months you go look at, if it's quarterly, right? You'd put it every 3 months.
Yep.
There goes that math thing. It keeps jumping up and biting me. But so in March you're going to go back and you're going to look at the careers page of the 10 offices that you think are either recruiting well, or the ones that are your direct competition, or whatever it is. You go back and look at them. Go back and look at them in June. Go back and look at them in September, or whenever it is, right? And so that you've got October. So you go back and look and see if it's the same thing on there. What you're going to notice is there's movement.
Yeah.
Right? There's things that are happening. They've got coupons on there, like you were joking about just a second ago, right? All of those things you want to know and be able to track and see what was working and what wasn't. If there's 10 of those pages and you have them bookmarked in a folder on your computer, on Chromebook or on Chrome or whatever it is that you use, literally a reminder pops up on your calendar. You go up and you open up that folder and you click through the bookmark that's saved on all of those, and you save it to Evernote, and you move on. And then at the end of the year, you go back and look at it and go, oh my gosh, this is what they did. This was different than what it was. What you're going to notice is that a lot of people don't tell their story really well.
Yeah.
Okay. Your careers page, your about us page, your contact us page should be telling your story really well.
Yeah.
Okay?
Especially in a franchise.
Absolutely.
Because you can go to 25 different franchise pages across the country, and it's the same. It's horrible. The same thing. Over and over. So
it's so horrible.
Matt, we saved the fifth one and the last one.
Hang on. Let's go back to that for just a second.
That was me rewinding.
Right, backwards masking. So absolutely, a lot of franchises create the page where you can link to it. Okay, here's the issue with that. All right, because we help some brokers actually with calling and stuff like that. A lot of the times when we're helping out, one of the brokers in the market is recruiting, and we're recruiting, and so when we call, they all think, even on the phone call, when we say this is blah 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 real estate, because it was a franchise, our callers will will tell us, hey, we had some more people say they've been getting a lot of calls from us. We wish that they would leave us alone, and we haven't called them.
Yeah, it's
because it's that same franchise that's calling and blazing through everybody from a call standpoint. If they get confused on a phone call when they think they're hearing the same thing, what do you think they feel when they're looking at your website and you're using the same exact career page that looks the same exact way as everyone else in your franchise in the market?
Yeah.
What are they thinking?
Yeah, just stale.
It's all the same.
It's all the same.
It's all the same.
Yep.
And literally how the other franchise brokerage acts is how you're going to get treated, because you're not telling your story. You're telling the same exact story that someone else is telling in the person's eyes, because it looks the same exact way.
Yeah.
It has to be different. Update your damn career page.
Yeah, and that's where it's like, you're a Georgia Bulldogs fan, right? And I'm
just this year, by the way.
Oh, of course, forever.
Right.
And, it's not fair to the other Bulldog fans that I'm like, they're all the same.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
They're not.
Yeah, because they're not. Because I just know you.
Right.
Right? But you don't want to look. You don't want to look the same, and that's why everybody wears a different jersey.
Right. That's exactly right.
So Matt, you don't want to judge yourself. You don't want to judge, although you do.
Mm-hmm.
Not you.
I do.
Yeah,
I do. Yeah.
You don't want to judge your competition, other brokerages during this competitive review. You want to look at this from a very matter of fact, objective. Objectively, this is where I am. This is what they're doing. This is what I'm doing. How do those things compare?
Are they me? Are they not me?
Are they me? Are they not me? Are they them? Are they not them?
Yep.
And because if someone's if someone's putting out really cool content, you're like, man, I really like this. They're not growing. You're like, why are they not growing? Mm-hmm. It's more than likely because it is not them.
Right.
Right.
And then you're going to tell yourself, oh, they're putting content out that's really good content, and they're not recruiting, so really good content must not work.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely, you have to not judge yourself by, don't walk a mile in someone else's moccasins. What is that? How does that go? Something like that?
Yeah.
Don't judge me till you've walked a mile in my moccasins.
Yeah, I think it's like, don't walk into a water moccasin.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Okay. So there's so much truth to that, right? Water moccasins will kill you.
Yeah. A lot of truth to all those things, even the ones that aren't real.
That's exactly right. So you can't judge yourself looking at someone else and what they're succeeding and what they're not succeeding at. Their circumstances are different. That does not mean you can't take what they're doing or take what you're doing and make adjustments. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, you should do that. If you don't plan on doing that, why are you doing a competitive review?
Yeah, exactly.
But you have to do it from a proper perspective.
Yeah.
And the perspective is not the things I see is why they're winning. Yep. Right? Because unfortunately, that's just not the case. There's a lot of different reasons why people are winning and losing. The reason for the competitive review is because you're gathering as much data, as much intel as you can. You're taking a close look at it, and you're trying to figure out what's happening and what adjustments need to be made, what the opportunities are for you, what some of their weaknesses may be. You're trying to take a look at all of that, and then you're trying to make yourself look good through those choices.
Yes.
You're trying to change your own perception of what you're doing and how you're doing it so that you can be more effective in what you're doing. It's not about judging them or judging yourself. It's about improving. Yep. It's about reviewing and taking a look and saying this is working and this isn't. That's what we're trying to make sure that we're doing. Okay.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, Matt, you've got an action item. I know that, right?
I do. Yep.
Right. Before we get to that, if you're listening to this on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Deezer, any of those platforms, make sure you hit that follow button. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that red subscribe button, that bell right beside it. Get notified every time we drop a new episode. There's no better time than the present to go to prospectboomerang.com and see all the cool things that Matt and I do at work and things that we do to help brokers just like you grow your brokerage in so many different ways. Mm-hmm. Matt. Yep. Drop us an action item, man.
So this one's going to be a really to the point action item. Hopefully everybody will get a lot out of this if they really dig in and do it. Go back and look at who was over the past 2 or 3 years who grew the most.
Yep.
Let's say it's over the past 3 years. I said 2 or 3. Let's just say 3 years. Who grew the most? It doesn't have to be net hires. Don't make it complicated. Who got from smaller to bigger, the top 3 in your market? Before you look at anything, write down what you think, the reason why they got bigger was.
Okay.
Okay. Write down 3 or 4 reasons why you think that they grew the way that they did. Okay. Everybody's going to put commission split on there, but we talked about that in the Master Recruiting series. Let's don't get into that. Put that down. Then do your competitive review on them.
Yeah.
And see if what you thought was the reason why they were winning is actually why they're winning.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
There's going to be a lot of reasons why, and it's not always going to be the one that you think it is. It's not always going to be the obvious one. It's not always going to be the easiest one. It might be, but it's not always going to be the easiest one.
Yep, absolutely. So Matt.
Yeah, Ben.
We love winning.
We do love winning.
We like it when our listeners win.
Absolutely.
That's exactly why we do that podcast, for one reason, do that podcast, this podcast, for one reason alone. Tell them why that is, Matt.
Because we want to be part of their win.